what did you think you'd be when you grew up? We've already done a quick poll. We got chef, police officer, doctor, math teacher, something with horses. Who was that? It was you. Head of a company, astronaut, firefighter. Wow. So how many of you are actually doing those things? Well, you are kind of, Jess. Well, when I was a little girl, growing up a long time ago, of course, in the 50s and 60s in rural Wisconsin, I figured I'd be a teacher, like the math teacher. See, my mom was a teacher, and I always liked to help people learn things. I went to college, University of Wisconsin-Madison, got my degree in teaching. However, student teaching, 9th grade English, remember that? It was a disaster. The kids were bored. Most of the boys are troublemakers. And where was that cooperating teacher? Like nowhere. She stuck me with these kids by myself, 8 long weeks. I was pretty discouraged. I half-heartedly applied for some teaching jobs. Didn't even get an interview. I gave up on teaching. Kept looking for another calling. I looked for a long time. I looked for close to 40 years. Now, when you think of the careers you're in, how many people say you're happy or satisfied with what you're doing now? We got at least some hands here, you know, it's working for you. So think about that career as opposed to the one from when you were really young. Maybe you knew somebody in that field when you were young, and they encouraged you to go into that field because they saw your gifts for it. Maybe they even helped you get a job. Or maybe when you went to college, Colorado college people and other people went to college, maybe a professor and advisor saw a particular skill in you that helped you get the kind of work you do now. Or perhaps you read about your career in a book or on the internet or heck, even in social media these days, I suppose. So those are all different ways you can find what you're doing. And see, for me though, I had settled. At age 59, 60, I figured, well, maybe 5 more years to retirement. Maybe in retirement I'll find something kind of fun. Maybe I'll find something that can float my boat. You know, Steve Jobs never settled. And he said in his 2005 commencement address, Stanford University, if you haven't seen it, you must watch it. He said that our work takes up so much time in our lives that we should love our work. He said to keep looking for what should be your true calling. To keep looking, to not settle. And he said, you know what, if anybody here's ever fallen in love, I know I have, 44 years ago, love that guy so much. You will, as with all matters of the heart, you'll know it when you find it. So hold that thought. Well, maybe some of you have heard, and it's been on the internet a lot lately or on social media, Harlan David Sanders, better known as Colonel Sanders, Kentucky Fried Chicken. Did you know when he was just a little boy in 1896, his father died? And there was Harlan and 2 little ones. And his mom had to go to work to support the family. So who had to put dinner on the table? Harlan. He learned how to cook full meals. Well, he went on in his life, and he didn't really cook that much. But in about his 50s, he purchased a little roadside gas station with a restaurant attached. And he always kind of experimented with cooking. So he came up with this really nifty recipe of herbs and spices. And he cooked this with chicken in a power cooker. And man, people came from miles around to this little roadside gas station and restaurant. But then, 1956, a big old interstate came plowing through. People just bypassed the restaurant and the gas station. He sold it for a loss. When he was 65 in 1956, he was living on $105 a month Social Security. That was it. And some accounts say he thought of taking his life. He felt like my life has amounted to nothing. But lucky for us, he didn't. He decided he'd get in his Ford with his wife and the power cooker in the back and with this great recipe in his head, and he went around to restaurants. He said, hey, I got an offer for you. I got this recipe, it's pretty popular at my restaurant. Let me cook some chicken for you. Let's see how it goes. And if you sell a lot of this chicken, just give me a cut of that. Well, you know what? 10 years later, there's 600 franchises of Kentucky Fried Chicken. And 10 more years later, he's a billionaire. How about that after $105 a month? Well, things turned around for me in my 60s. Not a billionaire yet. But you know what happened? Social media. Heck, I may be old, but I'm kind of an early adopter. So in 2008, when I was almost 60, that's how I remember it, I got friended on Facebook. And then someone told me about LinkedIn. I finally started using it after 2.5 years. I'm like, I like this stuff. This is cool. So I'm just kind of trekking along using it as a civilian, let's say. Well then, lo and behold, my company, where I worked in sales, decided we should get this newfangled social media thing going for our marketing. We got a business page on Facebook, we got a LinkedIn group, and we got on Twitter. Well, I didn't know Twitter, but I knew the other two. So we were told in the sales department, talk this up. We need engagement. We need likes on the Facebook page, followers on Twitter, people joining our group. Hey, you know what? You guys will pay you. Well, I'm not that money motivated, but I thought, what the heck? So I was always the leader of that little incentive pack, not necessarily the sales leader. And you know, my manager paid attention. He could even hear me. We sat just me to that post away from each other. And one day, about 3 months in this roll-up, I know I'm 61, he says, Joyce, you are so good at talking about social media with our clients. He looked at me and he said, hey, have you ever thought of helping people in the baby boomer generation, oh, look at you, to help them understand social media like you do? Ever had one of those moments where kind of time stood still? A moment you can remember like it was yesterday, and a moment that really changed the course of your life, because that was that kind of moment. Because I said, oh my gosh, I could do that. What a cool idea. I didn't know if I've ever would have thought of it without him saying it. Then I started thinking, really? Whoever heard of a social media consultant look more like maybe a retired librarian? I don't think so. And I kept discounting it and discounting it. But then, you know what? I started thinking, what about you? Anybody ever asked you one of those questions? Like, have you ever thought of opening a pizza parlor? Have you ever thought of going to London for the summer? You know, have you ever thought of, you know, whatever it's been in your life, and you think I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too out of shape or something? Hey, you know what? Try not to do that. Because what if I discounted his idea? Sure as heck wouldn't be standing here tonight. So when I retired 3 years later, after reading shelves of books and following all kinds of blogs and taking loads of courses, I retired at 64 to my encore career as a social media tutor and trainer. And you know what? There are times I do wonder, really. Snapchat, I don't even have an account yet. I kind of know what it is. Instagram, well, I'm sort of on it. I don't know, Facebook Live video, I've actually tried that. I make my clients talk. I say, here, you talk. Well, but really, what do the boomers need? They don't necessarily need Snapchat and Instagram. They need LinkedIn. They need Facebook. They need Twitter. Those I know, right? So chill out, Joyce. Don't get your underwear in a knot about what you don't know. So I just stand before you folks. If anybody here is still looking, I know Gail is, for what they really feel called to do, I just say I'm a beacon of hope, you see, because I found my calling. And you might not end up being a social media professional like me, but I'll tell you what, you'll become an expert at whatever it is you are called to do.